ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ॐ
नमो
नमो
भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ॐ
नमो
नमो
भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
नारायण नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 12th chapter, 18th shloka. Shri Raja Vacha.
श्रीराज उवाच।
Apya esha vamshayan rajrishin.
अपि
एषा
एषा
वंशयान्
वंशयान् राजर्षिन्
राजर्षिन्
Punya shlokan mahatmana.
पुण्यश्लोकान्
पुण्यश्लोकान्
महात्मना
महात्मना
Anuvartita svid yashasa.
अनुवर्तेता
अनुवर्ति
स्विद्यशसा
Sadhuvadena sattamah.
साधुवादेन
साधुवादेन
सत्तमः।
सत्तम।
Any volunteers who would like to read the translation? Okay, I can read. The good king Yudhishthir inquired, "O great souls, will he become a saintly king? Will he become as saintly a king, as pious in his very name, and as famous and glorified in his achievement as others who appeared in this great royal family?" Hare Krishna. So this is very interesting. Yudhishthir Maharaj is actually sharing what is there in his heart by asking this question. So first concern is whether he will actually be following the rules of dharma or not, like the great heritage Yudhishthira Maharaj had from before. So anybody wants to read the purport? Okay, Ansh will read.
The forefathers of King Yudhishthir were all great saintly kings, pious and glorified by their achievements.
Right there. Great.
By their great achievements. They were all saints on the royal throne, and therefore all the members of the state were happy, pious, well-behaved, prosperous, and
spiritually enlightened.
Thank
you. Understand guidance on the great souls and spiritual injunctions. Such great saintly kings were trained up, and as a result, the kingdom was full of saintly persons and was a happy land. Okay, Anisha will read. Can you read from here?
Under the strict guidance of the great souls and spiritual injunctions, such great saintly kings were trained up, and as a result, the kingdom was full of saintly persons and was a happy land of spiritual life. Maharaj Yudhishthir was himself a replica of his ancestors, and he desired that the next king after him become exactly like his great forefathers. He was happy to learn from the learned Brahmanas that by astrological calculations, the child would be born a first great devotee of the Lord. And more confidentially, He wanted to know whether the child was going to follow in the footsteps of his great forefathers. That is the way of the monarchical state. The reigning king should be a pious, chivalrous devotee of the Lord, and fear personified for the upstarts. He must also leave an heir apparent equally qualified to rule over the innocent citizens. In the modern setup of the democratic states, the people themselves have fallen to the qualities of the Shudras or less, and the government is run by their representative, who is ignorant of the scriptural mode of administrative education. Thus, the whole atmosphere is surcharged with Shudra qualities, manifested by lust and avarice. Such administrators quarrel every day among themselves. The cabinet of ministers changes often due to party and group selfishness. Everyone wants to exploit the state resources till he dies. No one retires from political life unless forced to do so. How can such low-grade men do good to the people? The result is corruption, intrigue, and hypocrisy. They should learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam how ideal the administrators must be before they can be given charge of different posts.
Hare Krishna. So anybody would like to share any points from this? First of all, the system was based upon service. Maharaj Yudhishthir wants his next generation to be a king so that he can serve properly, serve the citizens of the state. And that's why he is inquiring in that way. And Prabhupada is mentioning that astrological calculations were so accurate in those days that they were able to predict how this child will be, and they had predicted that the child will be first great devotee, and that was very pleasing for all of them, especially Maharaj Yudhishthira. Now you have to have qualities of the king to be able to become king. If one has qualities which are not befitting, then that person cannot rule. And we see, even though birth is an important factor, because the birth upbringing, that makes a lot of difference, but it's not all important. So these are some of the points which we can reflect upon. Anybody else would want to make any points? Okay, we'll keep reading. Who will read the Sanskrit?
Brahmana uchuhu Partha Prajavita Sakshat
Partha Prajavita Sakshat
Ikshvakur Eva Manavaha
Ikshvakur Eva Manavaha
Brahmanya Satya Sandhascha
Brahmanya Satya Sandhascha
Ramo Dasharat Rathiryatha.
Ramo Dasharyathir.
The learned Brahmana said, O son of Pritha, this child shall be exactly like the king Ikshvaku, son of Manu, in maintaining all those who are born. And as for following the Brahminical principles, especially in being true to his promise, he shall be exactly like Ram, the personality of Godhead, the son of Maharaj Dashrath. Purport. Praja means the living being who has taken birth in the material world. Actually, the living being has no birth and no death. But because of his separation from the service of the Lord and due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is offered a suitable body to satisfy his material desires. In doing so, one becomes conditioned by the laws of material nature, and the material body is changed in terms of his own work. The living entity transmigrates from one body to another in 8.4 million species of life. But due to his being the part and parcel of the Lord, he not only is maintained with all necessaries of life by the Lord, but is also protected by the Lord and his representatives, the saintly kings. These saintly kings give protection to all the prajas or living beings to live and fulfill their terms of imprisonment. Maharaj Parikshit was actually an ideal saintly king because while touring his kingdom, he happened to see that a poor cow was about to be killed by the personified Kali, whom he at once took to task as a murderer. This means that even the animals were given protection by the saintly administrators, not from any sentimental point of view, but because those who have taken their birth in the material world have the right to live. All the saintly kings, beginning from the king of the sun globe down to the king of the earth, are so inclined by the influence of the Vedic literatures. The Vedic literatures are taught in higher planets also. There is reference in the Bhagavad Gita about the teachings to the sun god Vivaswan by the Lord, and such lessons were transferred by disciplic succession as it was done by the sun god to his son Manu, and from Manu to Maharaj Ikshvaku. There are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma, and the Manu referred to herein is the seventh Manu, who is one of the Prajapatis, those who create progeny, and he is the son of the sun god. He is known as Vaivasvata Manu. He had 10 sons, and Maharaj Ikshvaku is one of them. Maharaj Ikshvaku also learned Bhakti Yoga as taught in the Bhagavad Gita from his father Manu, who got it from his father, the sun god, which is Vivaswan. Later on, the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita came down by disciplic succession from Maharaj Ikshvaku, but in course of time, the chain was broken by unscrupulous persons, and therefore it again had to be taught to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So all the Vedic literatures are current from the very beginning of creation of the material world, and thus the Vedic literatures are known as Apaurusheya, not made by man. The Vedic knowledge was spoken by the Lord and first heard by Brahma, the first created living being within the universe. So, in connection with the translation, Prabhupada is explaining to us in the purport how a king takes care of his praja, and praja not only means the humans in his kingdom, but every living entity in his kingdom. And then he goes on to explain who is Ikshvaku, Manu, and how they also what was their role in how they were also very elevated in terms of knowing the bhakti yoga process and devotional service to the Lord. So just for our understanding, for our explanation, Prabhupada is giving us very nicely information about King Ikshvaku, how he was, Vaivasvata Manu, the seventh Manu, who is one of the Prajapatis who creates the progeny. He had 10 sons, and Ikshvaku was one of them. And similarly, just as in disciplic succession, Krishna is sharing with Arjuna Similarly, the science of Bhakti Yoga was also explained to Maharaj Ikshvaku. So similarly, the Brahmanas are actually telling Yudhishthira Maharaj that that Parikshit Maharaj will be exactly like King Ikshvaku in maintaining all those who are born. So all the living entities. That's all I have to share.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to make any points? This.
Prabhuji, it seems it's a little long purport, Prabhuji, here explaining about, maybe I missed, sorry, Prabhuji.
Can you repeat, Mataji?
So Prabhuji, it's a long purport. Here they're talking
Oh
about
yes,
Maharaj.
you're right. You're right. Yeah,
So,
right. We
yeah.
haven't read that part.
Yeah, okay.
We have
Sorry,
read
Prabhuji.
the first paragraph.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay.
You're right. So anything anybody wants to say in this, then we'll go forward. Okay. So Anand Kishori will continue.
Maharaj Ikshvaku, one of the sons of Vaivasata Manu, he had 100 sons. He prohibited meat eating. His son Shashada became the next king after his death. Manu. The Manu mentioned in this verse as the father of Ikshvaku is the seventh Manu of the name Vaivasata Manu, the son of the sun god Vivaswan, to whom Krishna had instructed the teachings of Bhagavad Gita prior to his teaching them to Arjuna. Mankind is the descendant of Manu. This Vaivasvata Manu had 10 sons named Ikshvaku, Nabhag, Drishta, Sharyati, Narishyanta, Nabhaga, Dishta, Karusha, Prashadra, and Vasuman. The Lord's incarnation, Matsya, the gigantic fish, was invented during the beginning of Vaivasvata Manu's reign. He learned the principles of Bhagavad Gita from his father Vivaswan, the sun god, and he re-instructed the same to his son Maharaj Ikshvaku. In the beginning of Treta Yuga, the sun god instructed devotional service to Manu, and Manu in his turn, the sun god. Okay, so in the beginning of Treta Yuga, the sun god instructed devotional service to Manu, and Manu in his turn instructed it to Ikshvaku for the welfare of the whole human society. Okay. Anyone else wants to continue about Lord Ram?
I can read, Mataji. Lord Ram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, incarnated himself as Sri Ram, accepting the sonhood of his pure devotee Maharaj Dashrath, the king of Ayodhya. Lord Ram descended along with his plenary portions, and all of them appeared as his younger brothers. In the month of Chaitra, on the 9th day of the growing moon in the Treta Yuga, the Lord appeared as usual to establish the principle of religion and to annihilate the disturbing elements. When he was just a young boy, he helped the great sage Vishwamitra by killing Subhahu and striking Maricha and two demons who were disturbing the sages in the daily discharge of duties. The Brahmanas and Kshatriyas are meant to cooperate for the welfare of the mass of people. The Brahmana sages endeavor to enlighten the people by perfect knowledge, and the Kshatriya are meant for their protection. Lord Ramchandra is the ideal king for maintaining and protecting the highest culture of humanity, known as Brahmanya Dharma. The Lord is specifically the protector of the cows and the Brahmanas, and hence he enhances the prosperity of the world. He rewarded the administrative demigod by effective weapon to conquer the demon through the agency of Vishwamitra. He was present in the bow sacrifice of King Janaka, and by taking the invincible bow of Shiva, he married Sita Devi, daughter of Janak Maharaj Janak. After his marriage, he accepted exile in the forest for 14 years by the order of his father Maharaj Dasharatha. To help the administration of the demigod, he killed 14,000 demons, and by intrigues of the demons, his wife Sita Devi was kidnapped by Ravana. He made friendship with Sugriva, who was held by the Lord to kill Bali, brother of Sugriva. By the help of Lord Ram, Sugriva became the king of Vanaras, a race of gorillas. The Lord built a floating bridge of stones in the Indian Ocean and reached Lanka, the kingdom of Ravana, who had kidnapped Sita. Later on, Ravana was killed by him. The Ravana's brother Vibhishan was installed on the throne of Lanka. Vibhishan was one of the brothers of Ravana, a demon, but Lord Ram made him immortal by his blessings. On the expiry of 14 years after settling the affairs at Lanka, the Lord came back to his kingdom, Ayodhya, by flowered plain. He instructed his brothers Shatrughna to attack Lavanasura, who reigned at Mathura, and the demon was killed. He performed 10 Ashwamedha sacrifices, and later on he disappeared while taking a bath in Saryu River. The great epic Ramayana is the history of the Lord Ram's activity in the world, and the authoritative Ramayana was written by the great poet Valmiki. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you want to explain something?
Mataji, in this, it's explained about the Lord Ram, about the Ramayana. So from the birth of Lord Ram till he came back, and after conquering or killing the Ravana, and all those episodes happened during his exile in the forest, and then coming back to Ayodhya. But here I didn't know one thing which I would like to mention, that I didn't know that he performed, I mean, I knew this, that he performed Ashwamedha sacrifices, but I didn't know that he disappeared while taking a bath in Saryu River. So if you know about this, or Prabhuji, so please share something about it, Mataji. I didn't know. Actually, I just knew that, how Lord disappeared. I don't know about it. So that's all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you, Mataji, for sharing. So the ending pastime of many of the Lord's incarnations are very unique and different. Like, for example, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he disappeared by taking, actually by entering into a deity of the Lord, right? And if you see the example of, let's say, Lord Krishna, he had a different way of leaving. He had another Leela. And similarly, if we see, there was a different Leela for Lord Ram also, where he actually left in the, what is mentioned here, Sarayu River. So these are different ways in which the Lord basically leaves. So nothing much to share from my side other than that.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else would like to share anything? in this context. Okay, so we'll move forward. Anybody would like to read the Sanskrit?
I can try, Prabhuji. Esha data sharanyascha.
Esha
Data
Sharanyascha.
Yatha he Oshinarah Shibi.
Yatha hi Yoshinara
Yasho Vitanita Swanam.
Yashovita Nitasana
Dosyanter Eva Yajvanam.
Doshyayante Iva Yajvana.
This child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered, like the famous king Shibi of the Ushinara country. And he will expand the name and fame of his family, like Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta. A king becomes famous by his acts of charity, performances of yagna, protection of the surrendered, etc. A Kshatriya king is proud to give protection to the surrendered soul. This attitude of a king is called Ishwara Bhava, or factual power to give protection in a righteous cause. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructs living beings to surrender unto him, and he promises all protection. The Lord is all powerful and true to his word, and therefore he never fails to give protection to his different devotees. The king, being representative of the Lord, must possess this attitude of giving protection to the surrendered soul at all risks. Maharaj Shibi, the king of Ushinara, was an intimate friend of Maharaj Yayati, who was able to reach the heavenly planets along with Maharaj Shibi. Maharaj Shibi was aware of the heavenly planet where he was to be transferred after his death, and the description of this heavenly planet is given in the Mahabharat Adi Parva 96.6 to 9. Maharaj Shibi was so charitably disposed that he wanted to give over his acquired position in the heavenly kingdom to Yayati, but he did not accept it. Yayati went to the heavenly planet along with great rishis like Ashtaka and others. On inquiry from rishis, Yayati gave an account of Shibi's pious acts when all of them were on the path to heaven. He has become a member of the assembly of Yamaraj, who has become his worshipful deity. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, the worshipper of the demigods goes to the planets of the demigods. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. So Maharaj Shibi has become an associate of the great Vaishnava authority, Yamraj, on that particular planet. While he was on the earth, he became very famous as a protector of surrendered soul and donor of charities. The king of heaven once took the shape of a pigeon hunter bird, eagle, and Agni, the fire god, took the shape of a pigeon. The pigeon, while being chased by the eagle, took shelter on the lap of Maharaj Shibi, and the hunter eagle wanted the pigeon back from the king. The king wanted to give it. The king wanted to give it to some other meat to eat and requested the bird not to kill the pigeon. The hunter bird refused to accept the king's offer, but it was settled later on the eagle would accept flesh from the body of the king of the pigeon's equivalent weight. The king began to cut flesh from his body to weigh in the balance equivalent to the weight of the pigeon. But the mystic pigeon always remained heavier. The king then put himself on the balance to equate with the pigeon, and the demigods were pleased with him. This king of heaven and the fire god disclosed their identity, and the king was blessed by them. Dev Rishi Narad also glorified Maharaj Shibi for his great achievements, especially in charity and protection. Maharaj Shibi sacrificed his own son for the satisfaction of human beings in the kingdom, and thus child Parikshit was to become a second Shibi in charity and protection. Hare Krishna. So later describing about Dushyanti Bharat. Okay. So from this paragraph, I learned that here Prabhupada is telling about how glorious or how munificent donor of charity and protector the King Shibi was. And he is comparing that Maharaj Parikshit will become the second Shibi. And later, Prabhupada is telling about the story of Maharaj Shibi, that he was so generous in charity that the story of a pigeon and eagle, that the demigods actually came as a pigeon and the eagle, and then later we know in here Prabhupada explained the story that how Maharaj Shibi, King Shibi, was cutting the flesh from his body, but he was not ready to let the eagle hunt the pigeon. So he was ready to give the flesh from his body equivalent to pigeon's weight, and and then it's shared that all the demigods were, and even the Narad Dev Rishi Narad was also very happy, and he glorified Maharaj Rishi. So now they are saying that he will also, Maharaj Parikshit will also become the second Shibi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, that's very nice. Okay, great. So we see here the example of Maharaj Shibi is great. As the pigeon came and was asking, so this is what Prabhupada mentions. Praja means anybody who's born in that kingdom. So he was ready to serve even the pigeon who came there, because he was taking that as a responsibility, his own responsibility. So this is the greatness of the kings back in those days. So one has to be so advanced to be able to do such a thing, that not even caring of their own body and letting it be killed just because somebody else needs to be saved. That's my duty. So this is very, very spiritually advanced level. Anybody else would like to share anything here? Okay. So I think if nobody has anything, then we'll go to the next one.
Prabhuji, in the later part, it's about Dushyanti Bharata also. I didn't read that. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yes, I didn't.
No problem. No
So
problem.
anybody else would like to read that?
I can read.
Okay, Madhaji, go ahead.
Dushyanti Bharata. There are many Bharata in history, of which the Bharata, the brother of Lord Rama, Bharata, the son of King Shrabha, and Bharata, Excuse me?
King Rishabh. This is Rishabh.
Rishabh. Okay, King Rishabh in the Bharata, the son of Maharaja Dushyant, are very famous. And all these Bharatas are historically known to the universe. The Earth planet is known as the Bharata or Bharata's Varsha due to the king Bharata, son of Rishabh. But according to some, this land is known as Bharata due to the region of the son of the Dushyanta. So far as we are convinced, the land's name Bharata Varsha was established from the region of Bharata, the son of King Rishabh. Before him, the land was known as Ilavrata Varsha, but just after the coronation of Bharata, the son of Rishabh, this land became famous as the Bharata Varsha.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaji. Thank you for reading. So, three names are there. Three Bharats. So, who are the three Bharats who are famous? Yes.
So,
One is
Bharat
Brother
Maharaj.
of Ram. Yes, Anj,
Yes.
right. Who else is Bharat?
Dear, the lineage of Shantanu. King Shantanu.
Dear Bharat, yes, that is the son of King Rishabdev. So two Ansh already said. One is the brother of Lord Ram, and one is the son of Rishabdev. So two are the. Who's the third one?
Prabhu, Jad Bharat.
The son of Dushyant.
Yeah, son of Dushyant.
Dushyant.
Correct. Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushyant, are very famous. And all these Bharats are historically known to the universe. This earth planet known as Bharat, Bharatvarsh, due to the king Bharat, the son of Rishabdev. So the son of Rishabdev, who actually became deer in next life, that is the one on whose name is Bharatvarsh. But some people also say this is due to the reign of son of Dushyanta. So that is another name. Before him, land was known as Ilavarth Varsha. So before the son of Rishabdev, this land was Ilavarth Varsha. And after him, it became Bharatvarsha. Okay, so we'll read the last paragraph. Who wants to read the last paragraph?
I can finish, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
But despite all this, Bharata, the son of Maharaja Dushyant, was not less important. He is the son of the famous beauty Shakuntala. Maharaj Dushyant fell in love with Shakuntala in the forest when the Bharata was conceived. After that, the Maharaja forgot his wife Shakuntala by the curse of Kanva Muni, and the child Bharata was brought up in the forest by his mother. Even in the childhood, he was so powerful that he challenged the lions and elephant in the forest and would fight with them. As little children play with the cats and dogs. Because of the boys becoming so strong, more than so-called modern Tarzan, the rishis in the forest called him Shravan Damana Daman, Shravan Dam, Sarva Daman, or one of who is able to control everyone. A full description of the Maharaj Bharata is given in Mahabharata, Adi Parva. The Pandavas or the Kurus are sometimes addressed as Bharata due to being born in the dynasty of the famous Maharaja Bharata, the son of King Dushyant. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. So anybody else wants to add any points here? Beautifully, Prabhupada has explained that this story is there in Mahabharata Adi Parva, that Maharaj Dushyanta, he fell in love with Shakuntala when he went to the forest and conceived Bharat, but then later he forgot that he married, and the son was brought up because he was cursed. And he started the child Bharat, he started challenging the lions and elephants and everybody. And the rishis, their name was given was Sarva Damana, one who can control everyone. And he is the one who followed, I guess, who in whose dynasty the Pandavas are there. So that's why I called it Bharatvanshi. Okay. So I think we are almost at 9. Anybody else wants to make any points in this particular shloka? So lots of great personalities were there in this lineage. That's why Maharaj Yudhishthira was asking. Okay, thank you all the devotees. So we'll end here and we will continue tomorrow. Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 11 times. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.